All right, welcome in to a Maize and Brew six-pack. I am Jared Stormer, MaizeandBrew.com. With me, as always, my hetero life mate, Andrew Bailey, also of MaizeandBrew.com, a podcasting and film savant. Glad to be here with you to talk some Michigan, Minnesota, Little Brown Jug on the line this weekend, my friend. How you feeling?
Feeling great, man. I love rivalry weeks. No matter how small they feel, like I love the pageantry and just the overall silliness of competing for a little brown jug.
Yeah, a spittoon. We are literally going to go out there and fight over a spittoon from the expansion era when the railroads were built. But it's still cool. Where does this one rank as far as like rivalries you care about, though? Be honest.
Third. I mean, Ohio State, unassailable. Michigan State. And then I think it's firmly 3. Do they have any other rivalry trophies that we don't know about?
Wasn't there one for? There's obviously Paul Bunyan. There's the Little Brown Jug. Wasn't there something else that we found? Wasn't it? Oh, I forget who it was. We play somebody for one. It's like Illinois.
Northwestern now is the George Jewett Trophy.
There you go. Everyone remembers that.
I think it's a new one because wasn't that like the first black player and played for both Northwestern and Michigan, something like that. And I think it was just introduced 2 years ago or something along those lines. So a very new rivalry, it feels like.
Got you. Well, the Little Brown Jug's certainly not that. So a lot of history that goes with this one. And overall, looking at Minnesota, I've watched them a couple times and have done my homework on them. I'm a little disappointed so far with Minnesota. This was a team
You're telling me.
You really had high hopes for them, but I was expecting a little more too, particularly with their offense. So let's get into it, man. Where do you want to start looking at this Minnesota team?
Let's start with the fact that they can't run the ball anymore. I don't know what happened.
Me neither, man. I don't either. But that was the one thing we expected them to be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we were banking on. I mean, Darius Taylor had a good season last year. But again, injuries bit him early. He missed the North Carolina game and he's been getting his legs back under him. But as we saw against Iowa, when they face Power 4 competition, they struggle to move the football on the ground. 79 yards in each of those games.
Yeah, very bizarre also that it's 79 in both Iowa and North Carolina. Weird. So those are the two reasonable opponents that they've faced. Alarm bells should be going off with what we just saw from North Carolina. The fact that Minnesota could only put up 17 on that North Carolina team that got 70 hung on them by James Madison. So alarm bells going off about that. The fact that they can't run. Darius Taylor, as you mentioned, banged up a little bit early on, but just has not gotten going. I thought we were going to have a Darius Taylor, Jordan Newbin, running behind that beastly left tackle. I thought this was going to be a potent running attack. Jordan Newbin has been non-existent. For people thinking Donovan Edwards has had a rough start, Jordan Newbin has 9 yards rushing this season. It's not been great. So yeah, and then Darius Taylor just not able to get going, and really any of these, he's got about half as many rush yards as Khalil Mullings on the season. So this is probably their Super Bowl with where they're at, 2-2 on the season, wins over Nevada, and a win over, who was the other team? It wasn't a very good team. Rhode Island has a football team. They beat them. So this is their Super Bowl early on in the season, man. Going to 2-3, it's going to be real hard for them to scrap and claw their way back to a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, the North Carolina loss was so devastating too because our boy Dragon missed 2 kicks in that one to be the former Big Ten kicker of the year. So that was one they had to have. And now this one, it feels like it's very much do or die. And if they're going to do it offensively, they're going to have to run the football, and it's going to be really tough to do it on this Michigan front.
Yes, I completely agree. Them struggling to run the ball at this point. In this Michigan number 31 in rush yards per game, Minnesota number 108. And then you stack that up against Michigan's number 11 rush defense. This is not a great matchup for Minnesota. And I get that's kind of an oversimplification, but there's going to be some teams where Michigan, we don't match up well. And those are teams that are continuing on our schedule. But this is one where they've got to be looking at what Michigan wants to do. This is an excellent pass defense. I think they're technically number 2 in pass defense. A lot of that because of who they played, but they want you to air it out. They do not want you to run the ball down their throat, and that's certainly what they're going to get on Saturday.
This team, man, I'm so frustrated, and I think a lot of my frustration stems with their offensive coordinator. Their play calling is horrendous. I was watching that North Carolina game because I was banging the table for them in the preseason. I was like, oh, they can turn it around. They're going to build upon it, and it feels like PJ Fleck has a little bit of that Harbaugh overcommitment to like escalating commitment to where it's just too much at times and believes in the wrong people. And it seems like ever since they made a coordinator change, I believe it was last season, like it's just been struggling. Like they don't know what they do. They don't know how to like develop their identity with the run. And my biggest miss in the offseason was perhaps Max Brosmer, who was up for the FCS Heisman last year and is doing nothing. And you can say, hey, it was FCS, but look at Amir Hall, who was FCS last year, and how seamlessly he's adapted. And Max Brosmer is considered the cream of the crop, like I said, a finalist for their Heisman Trophy, and has just looked very similar to the Greek Rifle, who now that he's with Rutgers, actually is starting to live up to expectations.
Yeah. Real quick shout out to Vaughn joining us, a leader of men. Glad to have you here, my friend. Yeah, man. Great call in there. Hosmer was the one thing that we disagreed about on this team, which is why I think you were a little higher on him than I was, because I couldn't quite get there. But you're right in everything that you said. Like the expectation should be a little bit better. This last week against Iowa, by far the best defense that he's faced. He was 22 of 37 for 209, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions as well. He's got 3 on the season. So hasn't been quite as bad as Davis Warren, but has been turning the ball over a little bit more. And he has a far better offensive line than Davis Warren has in pass protection. So fewer excuses there, but that's who we're going to see. Their receiver, Daniel Jackson, will be matched up against Will Johnson all afternoon long, and good luck with that. So, I mean, I think they're going to struggle to pass the ball as well as they're going to struggle to move the ball. This probably is just a situation where the Michigan defense is just too talented, too fast, too physical for their offense, right? Am I oversimplifying it?
No, I think you're dead right, man. It's very much like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other. It's like teams want to win the same way. They want to run the football. They want to limit the quarterback, and they want to win with good defense. It just happens that Michigan's better at every aspect of that compared to Minnesota right now.
Yeah, so let's move over to their defense. What have you seen from this defense? They brought back a decent amount, and as you mentioned, just kind of like a lot of moving pieces there. I haven't really watched and like noticed anybody that jumped off the screen as far as players on this defense, whereas usually there's somebody back there. I mean, St. Just transferred there. Benjamin St. Just still having a pretty solid little NFL career.
Yeah, Newman last year, one of the best in the country.
Tyler Newman. Yeah, there's always just somebody there. Who is it this year?
So they have a couple players that I like, and this defense is good when it's like aided by a decent offense and one that can control the ball a little bit. So 3 players to watch on the defense are safety Jack Henderson, who surprisingly leads the team in sacks and TFLs from a safety position. Maverick Baranowski, one of the top linebackers, one of the best names in the Big Ten. And I also like Ja Joyner, but it could just be the name. He's been a little underwhelming this year, but also kind of a specimen on the edge.
You're telling me of a linebacker whose name is Max Bear? Elite.
Yeah, basically. Maverick.
Even better. Maverick Bear. That's a
Baranowski.
No, that's too much.
No, stop it, Bear. We had it perfect.
You got it good there. They got a dragon. They got a Max Bear. Yeah, or Maverick Bear. I'm excited, man. Yeah, there's like, it's a strong, solid defense, but the fact of the matter is this Iowa team was really able to move the ball on them. What was his name? Caleb Johnson went nuts. 206 yards, 3 touchdowns last week for Iowa. So their inability to stop the run has really been their downfall.
It's just been them getting worn out. Like against Minnesota, they were up 14-7 at half, or excuse me, against North Carolina, 14-7 at half. Same thing against Iowa, up 14-7. And then it's in the second half, the defense gets tired and they just start getting run over and start making mistakes and certain things like that. I mean, Cade McNamara threw for 62 yards last week. They just saw what Michigan's going to do to them and they couldn't stop it at all. So like, against Michigan this week, it might take a quarter, a 2, maybe get into the early second half. I just eventually think this Minnesota defense is going to crack because they can't support the weight of the offense.
So for Michigan's offense here, this is a really good opportunity because it doesn't get a lot easier. This is one of the few remaining matchups that Michigan should win based on talent alone. So this is a great opportunity for some in-game reps for Alex Orji to get more comfortable in this offense, to maybe figure out a center. That'd be nice.
That'd be
Figure
great.
out that'd be really neat in this one. So what's the Michigan philosophy coming in? I know like we'd probably like to see some of that on the job training, but you can't really mess around with any team on the schedule with just based on how we're built on offense.
So some people are going to point to, they want this game to be like Michigan, Minnesota from 2017, where Michigan's quarterback Brandon Peters threw for 56 yards, but then they also had Karan Higdon go for over 200, and they had Chris Evans go for over 150.
I like
But
that.
I don't think that's what's best for this team long term. Actually, Chris Evans went for 191 in that. I was at that game, surprisingly enough.
Nice. That's sick.
They need to find a balance early on, so you need to keep your identity, but you need Alex Orji to get comfortable in there. Daniel Jeremiah had a thing talking about quarterbacks that I really liked in terms of development, and it was quarterbacks need to develop their catalog. And by that, he means you need to be running plays, see coverages, see route combinations, and just start banking those in your head. So when you come up for a snap and a rep, you've seen this picture before. You know what to do. And I think Orji just needs some more of those in this game. That said, I think there needs to be a balance of that early on. And you can always lean back to the run full time if things get a little dicey. But if Michigan can get ahead by 14, 21 points, then I think Michigan just needs to open up the offense and just pass the ball with Orji just to get those valuable reps while the game is already in hand.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If you're up, I would give him at least an extra 2 series. Like we need those reps. He needs
keep
those
them
reps.
going,
Like, yeah, 100%. That being said, this is the number 2 pass defense currently by yardage in the country. Like I mentioned, a lot of that's matchup dependent when you go against Iowa. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to jump up too much going Iowa, Michigan back-to-back weeks. I'm guessing we're not going to load it up on them through the air. That being said, it is a pretty solid pass defense, and you don't want to really tank his confidence, what confidence you've already put in the bank with Alex Orji by having him let this thing loose and turn the ball over early on. And then all of a sudden you're hearing the groans and you're like, oh, he's no different than Davis Warren. Because one good thing that Joel Klatt said on his podcast, full of some not so awesome things, Joel Klatt, fan of the pod, but not this week, was that Alex Orji raises your floor. And I tend to agree, but that's only if he doesn't turn the ball over. So that is like the one thing he has going for him right now that he has to continue to do. Do not turn the ball over against Minnesota. I don't care if it's 32 yards again. I'd like to see closer to 100 yards to show that, like, oh, yeah, guys, actually, this guy can throw the ball a little bit. But the not turning it over thing is got to be paramount.
Yeah, that needs to be sustained. And I think we saw some good indications of that against USC when he would look away some players late in the game, not force the issue, not put the ball in harm's way. So I think you're going to see a lot of quick not a lot of quick slants, but you're going to see some of those in this game, some stuff over the middle, soft zones. And we also have to keep in mind he needs to develop the rapport with his receivers. Like it felt like as soon as Davis Warren had a good rapport built with his receivers, he also had a good rapport built with the defenders. So he was throwing some interceptions to them as well. So it's going to take time for Orji to have everything down pat, but this is a great opportunity just for those easy throws. He doesn't need to be out here slinging it 30 times a game, but 150 passing yards, we're in a great spot moving forward to Washington.
Yeah, and it sounds like Colston Loveland a soft maybe for this game, so that could really help as well. I would love to see if maybe they have some chemistry. And
not holding my breath. I've gotten a lot of soft maybes in my career, and they never came out too well.
I got a soft maybe just last night, actually. We'll see where it goes. She hasn't returned my text. So we'll see. Like the Loveland part could help, but really just like establishing the run is going to be what help. I would like to see him do a little bit more with his legs too. Obviously, you don't want to put him at risk of injury, and you don't want to bang him up more than you need to. But that's kind of the most intriguing part of his game right now. Not kind of, it is right now the most intriguing part of his game is his legs. So like, let's see what the dude can do a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, that came down to like the ultimate trump card in the Davis Warren Alex Orji debate was, what does Alex Orji do well? He runs. What does Davis Warren do well?
Nice hair.
Good hair. Seems like a good kid. I mean, so that was the thing. So it's like, let's accentuate that a little bit. Maybe the run menu opens up a little bit more. You see some different designs, some other things you can do creatively, or just try some stuff out, throw it against the wall late and see what sticks. Like, I just really think reps in this game are the most important thing for Orji.
Yeah. I mean, one of the last great opportunities to get him. It's Minnesota, Northwestern, probably the last game where Michigan's like really going to handedly be the favorites. Got some great comments here from a Lewis. God bless.
There he is.
What a name of a leader. He asked, do you think pre-2021 Michigan would have won that game against USC that we played last Saturday? That is an easy no for me.
Hard no.
A hard no. We'll probably lose that one by 17.
Those games that we didn't start winning those games till Penn State 2021 or like Nebraska around that time, when they just like snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Before that, though, no. It was over. We lost in all kinds of ways. Remember in 2019 when Ronnie Bell dropped the touchdown at Penn State? We were inventing new ways to suffer.
That's true. Go back even further. It gets even more asinine. I was at the App State game. I was at the Toledo game. They almost banned me from entering the big house. Those were back-to-back visits for me. Things have improved since then. Shout out to Matty, what up, dude? In the comments. Good to see all of you interacting in the chat. So give me if you're up for it, give me your ideal Alex Orji stat line for this. What do you think it looks like? Or maybe give me your prediction, not your ideal.
But my ideal would be 150 passing yards, probably somewhere of like 12 of 17, 150, one passing touchdown, one or two rushing touchdowns, like probably one. That just you're contributing 14 points. You're not turning the ball over. You're decently efficient, and you're passing the ball just enough so the defense can't just overload the box play after play.
I like that. That's a warm slice of toast right there. That's a lovely little stat line. I'll take that. Yeah, I tend to agree. What I think it's going to be, I think he might get up around 100 in this game, which I know doesn't excite anyone. But for a lot of the reasons that you're saying, like, I do think that Minnesota likely watched some of that tape if they're doing their job. And PJ Fleck, pretty strong coach. I'd say I'd put him in the top half of the Big Ten as far as coaches, despite the 2-2 start. They're doing their homework. This box is going to be a crowded place, I'm guessing. Like, this box is going to look like a Sam's Club pre-hurricane situation in Tampa, Florida.
Spoken like a true former Tampa resident. Absolutely. And one thing Michigan's going to have the advantage of in this game that they didn't against USC per se is they're going to be able to out-athlete them on the perimeter. That USC defense, for all its flaws and shortcomings, was very fast. And they can get out on the edge and do some things. And it was hard for Michigan to get some of those plays in the third quarter. I think you're going to see more of that in this game, like some of those counter reads, those zone reads. And you're going to see Orji get on the edge and just be able to do a little bit more because in a lot of situations, he'll be the best athlete out there. So I think that'll be to his advantage and to his confidence moving forward.
I think he's probably the best athlete out there more times than not when he steps onto the field. I mean, granted, sometimes he's going against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, so there's other guys on his team that can take it from him, but more times than not. So
what do you think about the thought of, I mean, he alluded to it this week in his press conference, of Will Johnson on offense to kind of bolster the Heisman campaign?
He walked to the x-ray room the other week, and I wanted to go walk into a pond holding a cinder block. I do not want to, like, I cannot afford to lose Will Johnson. Like, he is the most important player on this team. That being said, it'd be electric. I mean, he is awesome with the ball in his hands. Where are you at on this?
I tend to agree with you. I lean that direction. Like, I know the Travis Hunter thing is fun and exciting and all this, but we've also seen those players tire down and get 300 receiving yards put on their head because they're playing too many snaps. Like, let's just protect Will Johnson, put him in some bubble wrap, keep him safe at all times. Maybe if you want to put him in near the goal line, throw a fade his way, see if he can high point one. I could live with that, but there's no need to get that snap count higher than it needs to be.
I completely agree with that, man. I don't know that Travis Hunter's going to make it out of this season alive. Like, that is a workload, my friend. Real quick in the comments, Lewis would like to see 20 pass attempts. Matt thinking a solid 100+ yards with a rushing TD or two. I like it. Vaughn predicting 9 for 16, 88, 1 TD, another 45 on the ground. That's kind of closer to what I was leaning. I was thinking he gets right up just under 100, gets into the end zone. He does have that little fullback quick out that he's scored on twice now that we've seen him score 2 touchdowns on. So he has something in the bag at least. So maybe gets one that way. If we're up Jaden Davis minutes, that's actually a good one for this one because this might be one of the last opportunities to get up big enough to get Jaden Davis minutes. So that's worth entertaining here. Would you want to see Jaden Davis or would you maybe want to see Jack Tuttle just to see if we have something there in case the Alex Orji experiment goes south?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, ideally, you would like to be able to see both, to have 2 series because you want to have a backup just in case Alex Orji, God forbid, gets hurt and then you're forced to go down to that quarterback. But also with Jaden Davis, you want to see some live reps. So maybe you have a balance to where you see Jack Tuttle now just to kind of build up your contingency plan. And then you save Jaden Davis for Northwestern. So he's going to get some reps anyway. Because, I mean, I can assure you Michigan is going to be up against Northwestern.
Yeah, that's the one where you can almost guarantee you'll see some of these guys. But just the way the schedule lined up, it's not really a season that allows for a lot of that. I mean, we were kind of scratching and clawing. Yeah, the schedule sucks. Kind of scratching.
Why is Illinois good? This is not good.
Yeah, that doesn't help our cause whatsoever. Yeah, man. But that's a great question by Andrew. Like, this actually could potentially be a game where
Yeah.
you could see Jaden Davis. Like, if you got up 3 scores, I'm staying far away from the spreads after Michigan has kind of done me dirty on that. And late in this game, Michigan might be more interested in playing some of their younger defenders, which it's already shown dividends. Like, some of these guys are starting to emerge. So I can't hate on it too much. I'm just not going to be betting anymore on Michigan.
That was one of those things, like, we were frustrated about it against Arkansas State, but we were happy against USC. It's like, okay, we're losing some style points, but it's nice to have the depth bolstered because we're going to need it.
Yep, 100% in this one. Speaking of depth, running back number 2, I said last week on Out of the Blue, Donovan Edwards has not had his final say this season. Does this kind of feel like a Donovan Edwards game? Like, he's got to be hungry after that last week. And I mean, Mullings is clearly going to be running back number 1, but I think Donovan's going to get upwards of over maybe a dozen attempts in this game too.
You got to rebuild the confidence. That fumble was devastating. And I can only imagine how he felt and how happy he was that Mullings scored and saved him from being the object of derision after the game. So I think you have to rebuild that confidence. You have to get him in the end zone in this game, whether it's a big play, whether it's a bulk of carries. He has to get in the end zone and just get him going because you need that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, maybe Donovan, series 1, bulk of the series.
Bulk of the series. It's just get him some in there. Let him get loose. And for God's sakes, let's keep getting him in space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a question, actually a couple questions come through about getting him lined up a little bit more often. I'm actually kind of for it. Like, he should be on the field. He's one of your most talented 11. He's obviously proven that he's a great receiver and just gives you another wrinkle. Like, even if you're just running some interesting looks out of that and it's not necessarily supposed to be a downfield threat, I don't see any harm in it.
No, I love the idea of having 2 running backs in there and Kalel and Donovan and moving Donovan in motion. And then you either fake a pass or something there just to get the defense a little off balance, lighten the box up, and then feed Kalel. There's so many ways you can use both of them to manipulate a defense and just get creative with your run package.
One thing that I'm not sure Kirk Campbell has yet, we'll find out as this season progresses, but Sharon Moore was setting things up throughout the season, not just throughout the game. That man was thinking macro and micro. He was going full season being like, okay, I know Ohio State's watching. Let's run this look so that at the end of November, we can run that look. Does Kirk Campbell have any of that? And that Donovan stuff gives you a lot of options, gives Ohio State a lot of weird little looks that you got to worry about in practice for.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a running back pass still tucked away. I mean, we've seen Kalel and Donovan both throw the ball. So I think that is one. Kirk Campbell's not as good of a play caller as Sharon Moore, but he doesn't have the experience either. I mean, Sharon Moore got to learn and develop, and we saw half a year with Gaddis and then half a year with Matt Weiss, and then it's just him. And it's okay, now he's fully himself and could do so much more. So it's taking Campbell time. He's not on that level, but he is getting better, to his credit, because some of the stuff we saw in Fresno, you and I were like, for the love of God, can we have more than a 2-man route concept? Please, this isn't the 80s.
100%, man. And I mean, he's got to get better. The pass protection. This is another great opportunity for the pass pro to really, really improve this week. I'm sure they're being challenged week in and week out by Grant Newsome, by Sharon Moore. I mean, they take a ton of pride at Michigan. I'm not telling you anything you don't know already in their pass protection and just the offensive line play in general. So that's 100% going to be where my eyes go first. My eyes kind of always go there on the offense. When our team's on the offense, it's the first thing to happen. So this week, more so than usual, I'll be really locked in, particularly when he drops back to pass, because up until this point, my heart kind of sinks whenever Michigan drops back to pass.
It can be a little frightening at times. And I think that'll be one of our keys to the game here in a second when we discuss just about protect the quarterback, make his life a little bit easier back there. I mean, Minnesota's averaging 2 sacks a game. So, I mean, they'll be coming in this one. We have to improve. And that goes back to a point you mentioned early on about establish the center. Please, just pick one. Just pick one. And either one at this point. I'll concede by Crippen minutes. Just pick somebody. I think it's hilarious, too, when the coaching staff talks about challenging somebody. They talked about it with Tommy Doman the week before, and he played well. What do you think that entails? They just, come up to him Tommy Doman, you mother – what are you doing? Your family hates you. This hates you. Be better. We challenge them. It's just very vague.
They hire a short kid to just poke him with a stick all week. And just what? Do better.
Why does this little person keep kicking me in the shins? It's Sharon sent him.
Sharon's 40. I saw that 41 yards a punt last week.
I thought
Think I
Iman
didn't notice.
Dennis transferred. Why is he gnawing at my ankles?
So he kept on scholarship.
I'm just gonna start calling you and harassing you at times. But what are you doing? Like I'm challenging
you.
I need more.
What is this? Did you send me a dead mouse via FedEx? Challenging you to be better this week.
Is this anthrax? No, it's flour, but you got the point.
You got the point. Scared you, didn't it? I challenge you. That's a great point. I don't know what it means to challenge someone. It probably just means they got an ass chewing, to be honest.
That sounds like it. Yeah. I wish you would just say ass chewing, though. Like maybe that's just the old school football fan in me. But I gave Doman a good ass chewing. He got the point.
Doesn't bother me. I don't put kids' gloves on these kids. Old enough to go to Iraq, old enough to get an ass chewing.
I think it's what it says on their NIL.
That's what I'm screaming, brother. All right. Anything else with the offense? It'd be nice to see a wide receiver emerge. That'd be lovely. Like, another place where I don't really care who it is. Samaj has shown a little bit. I think you and I are starting to lean Kendrick Bell over Tyler Morris. Frederick Moore? Yeah. Any Frederick Moore takers out there?
He's been doing some things. I really like the way Tyler Morris blocked last weekend. It's like he was blocking like his life depended on it. I think you could see a reward because of that this week. I don't know how much it'll be. Maybe one of the hopefully 10 passes completed, but like there could be, man, because he was very impressive on the perimeter.
Yeah, just like doling out little like garbanzo beans, like, and one for you, Samaj. Here's a 6-yard reception.
Shout out to the receivers, man, for blocking the way they did last week for no reward, basically. Like that is a thankless job sometimes at Michigan.
It absolutely is. Maddie says Fred Moore needs more snaps. I could buy into that. I've seen some stuff with Frederick Moore. They really haven't had a ton of opportunity. So the fact that like not a lot of opportunity, not really part of the game plan, don't really have a quarterback, don't really have pass protection. Like you said, it's a thankless job to be a Michigan receiver this year. The only thing that really concerns me big picture is like, we've got some good ones committed. Are they watching this? Like, I don't know.
It gets a little worrisome at times. No, Frederick Moore, he's worked his way back off my list a little bit because, giving up on that deep ball in the first game and then the drop pass or the almost fumble resulted in just being a drop pass against Texas. But showed a little something. That a reverse last week was really nice. Like I like getting him in space on the perimeter, kind of Eddie McNew-ish, AJ Henning-ish on the edges. So maybe you could see a role carved out for him that way.
Yeah, and if not, it's likely going to be the tight ends, whether it's Colston Loveland, Marlon Klein. Marlon Klein also shaken up in that game last week, so hopefully he's able to go, or we can have one of those two guys there. Clearly, that was where Alex Orji wanted to get the ball in limited pass attempts versus USC. Minnesota should offer a little bit more opportunities to get the ball downfield to one of those guys, provided they can suit up for this one.
Hell, dude, even if they don't suit up, there's Hogan Hansen. My God, this kid's Hoagie got a future. Zach Marshall, Jalen Hoffman leading the way on Donovan's touchdown. It's like they just keep producing these guys in a lab.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So there's guys there. I'll be interested to see who he favors, what kind of a rhythm he can get into, what kind of rhythm this offense can get into. This is kind of the last get right game before things get serious. And yeah, I'm actually including Michigan State in that. I'm aware. Got to take them seriously because if not, that's how you have a 2017 or a 2015 or, any of those.
Oh, I don't like thinking about that.
Well, let's not do that. Let us instead talk about our keys to the game. We'll get into some players of the game. Let's get some predictions.
All right, let's do offense first. So my 3 keys to the offense, 2 of them kind of tie into each other. One, you mentioned it already, show improvement in pass protection. I think that's a big thing here. Like if we want to get Alex Orji comfortable, we have to be able to pass protect first. So get Orji comfortable. Let's get the pass protection underway. But also, let's not forget who we are. Like I know we want to develop the pass, but like still need to run the ball here consistently, get ahead, dominate this game, control the time of possession, and keep your defense fresh. If Michigan's defense is kept fresh in this game, Minnesota's not going to score. Just flat out. Like if you're holding a Lincoln Riley 2-week team ready to prepare, coming off a bye week to 0.3 yards in the first quarter, that's doing something. So if the defense has time to rest, stay off the field, they are going to be an absolute problem. So that goes to the offense. And my last point is sustain long drives. Possess the football. I can't believe Michigan lost time of possession last week, really just because of that bad third quarter. But sustain long drives, dominate the clock, stick to who you are, and then also work on some of those weaknesses. Look for improvement with the offensive line and the quarterback.
Yeah, I love a lot of that. Like the development part of this is huge. And I mean, not to disrespect the opponent, like this is a practice for us, glorified practice. It is not. Like Minnesota could very well win this game, so you got to take them seriously. But if you execute your game plan on offense better than they execute their game plan on offense, there's no question, just because of the difference in our defense and how good our defense is. But on the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to kind of stick with a lot of the same game plans from last week because it's going to be very similar. So I'll say break loose. Can you get loose 2 or more times again in this one? Obviously, it'd be great to have the longer drives and to see them convert down in the red zone, but it's really going to tighten up. I think that's going to be a common theme for the rest of the season, that when this team gets down into the red zone, their inability to pass, particularly if Colston Loveland's not in there, could make things get a little bit dicier, a little bit harder. So can we break 2 more, get a 2-score lead? Then that opens up everything you're talking about. If we're up 2 scores early in this one, let's get some development in there. Let's pass it around a little bit. Let's, I mean, not take our foot off the gas at all, but like, let's work on us. Let's look internally. So break a couple big ones, no turnovers, obviously keep developing on the offensive line, and then find chemistry, whether that be with a tight end, whether that be with a wide receiver. But we need to start getting Alex Orji into a rhythm, start building chemistry with one of these pass catchers. Don't care who it is. I don't even care if it's a guy I've never even heard of. Give me Peyton O'Leary minutes. Fine.
Let's go. Absolutely. A blowout isn't as important as developing a passing offense and building depth. And transitioning over to the defense, I really want to see the second and third teamers get in here and continue to get snaps and chances to improve, to build upon not only this year, but next year. But in order to do that, got to do a couple things first. First, force Minnesota to be one-dimensional. Make this a Max Brosnummer game, because that's not how they want to play, and this team will collapse from the inside out. We've seen it twice already this season. Number 2, clean up the coverage bus. Looking at you, Makari Page, for the love of God, clean up the coverage bus. Like, I know, like, we had some last year as well. A lot of them, like, we were very fortunate. Look at the Washington game. There's a couple bad busts in that one that we were lucky that they didn't come back to sting us. But we got to clean those up, because we're facing good quarterbacks early in the year. We're going to face more good quarterbacks down the road. Really have to improve those throughout the season, and this is a great chance to work on that. Number 3, going back to my boy Max Brosmer, who's really let me down this year. Make him pass over the middle. He doesn't want to do it. He likes to pass to the edges on the perimeter where it's safe. Make him pass over the middle, because if he does, he's going to give this defense a chance for 2, maybe 3 turnovers.
I like it. Will Johnson just intercepted Max Brosmer. That's an anticipatory sentence. I'm just getting it out early because it's going to happen. So that's my number 1. Keep forcing the turnovers. It's mostly been Will Johnson this season, but win the turnover battle against Minnesota. You're winning this game. They just do not have the offense to really come back if they go down. Like, even if they go down 10 points, it's going to be a struggle for them. Get your awesome field goal kicker into range. You really don't have to get far down this field. You just pretty much have to get over the 50, and you're in Dragon Ball Z range. And their dragon, they have a dragon of their own, has been a little less accurate than we anticipated. So you could pretty easily win this special teams battle just with a couple first downs. Like, it's not going to take a lot to get this team into field goal range, and then all of a sudden you're up 17 or something like that. And then, everything really opens up for this team. We're going to feel a whole lot better moving forward. So that has to do with taking care of the ball, obviously. Just win the turnover battle. And then on defense, pressure them up the middle. Shouldn't have any problems there. Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham are on one right now. So pressure him up the middle. As you said, he's going to get uncomfortable, and he's going to throw some interceptions. He's thrown 3 on the season. I think that he's got at least a couple more in there. He's going to have to pay the ferryman in this one. We were both very surprised that Miller Moss finished last game. We were texting throughout that game. We're like, I don't think he's going to make it. I really think we're knocking somebody out of one of these games. I don't wish for injuries or anything like that, but someone's getting knocked out of one of these games, and it might be Max Hosmer, the way that defense was rushing the quarterback last week.
Defense is so physical, man. But also keep in mind, like, this game could take some time. I know last year's final score was 52-10, but it was very much of Minnesota this year where Michigan had to wear them down. Like, it was 10-3 after the first quarter. It was 24-10 at halftime. Remember, Michigan gave up that long touchdown pass right before the half and kind of just sucked the wind out of the game for a little bit and had to bounce back. And then obviously the floodgates opened in the third quarter and they wore them down. So this one could take some time. PJ Fleck is too good of a head coach to just get bull rush. They'll have some trick plays, stuff up their sleeve, and they'll come ready to play. But it's not going to be enough. Players of the game, I'm going with Alex Orji on offense. I think it's going to be a step-up game. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. But I just think it's going to be very similar to what Vaughn suggested the stat line. 88 passing yards. Goal would be to get the triple digits, a touchdown, maybe one on the ground. Just show some growth. That would be the biggest thing I want to see from Orji in this one. And defensively, I think Fleck is smarter than others, or maybe not as arrogant. They're not going to throw at Will Johnson much in this game. But I'm going with Jair Hero for my defensive player because I think he's going to get one in this. He has just been steadily improving, doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's going to get a lot of balls thrown his way. So I'm really encouraged by what he could do in this opportunity. Score prediction. This is tough. I could see it a lot of different ways, especially if reserves come in and points are leaked in late. I could see Michigan just controlling this thing with a steady, just slow grind, kind of like the Iowa Big Ten championship last year. So I'm going to go 31-10. Feels like Michigan gets up, but then they get the younger guys in. Minnesota tacks on some points late, so it's not a shutout or anything too bad. But more points than we scored against USC, and 10 points feels right for this Minnesota team that only put up 17 against UNC. And I might even be being generous.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be more than double the spread. Currently, Vegas has this as a 9.5-point spread. They think the game's going to be something like 23-13 based on where they got the over-under set. And I could see something like that. I definitely could. I think this is the game where Michigan finally has that identity, and you're going to see that identity put to force against a lesser opponent. Michigan's going to be able to put their foot down on the pedal on this one. So I'm really excited about this matchup because I just think there's a lot of areas of opportunity to grow, and I think that they're going to grow. So on offense, I'm not going to get too complicated with this. Caleb Johnson went for 206 yards last week. Khalil Mullings might go for 208. So I think I think he's going to be big in this game. They're going to really struggle with him. So I'm not going to overcomplicate it there. I want to be right this week. But if Colston Loveland plays, I kind of like where your head's at there. I could see an Alex Orji get right game. If he doesn't, I don't think it's quite ready for that yet. On defense, give me the Jayshon Barham game. Been improving week in, week out. I've been liking a little bit more what I'm seeing. I want to stay on board the Barham train. Physical, I think that he'll be very involved in the run game if anything does get past those two behemoths in the middle. So give me Jayshon Barham. As far as the score, struggle in this one. I do think there's going to be a game where Zavada's really going to get a lot of work, and that could be this game. So I see him getting into the end zone at least twice. Maybe Dom Zavada puts up. I see where they got the 23. Give me 26. Give me 26-7.
Good. We both like the cover, though.
We both like the cover. I won't be betting the cover, but
I'm not betting on Michigan again this season.
Not this season. That was last season. Now it's the Tigers, baby. If you want to bet, you bet the Tigers. They are guided by a force stronger than luck. Yeah, I'll stay away, but I do like Michigan in this game. This is a tough matchup for Minnesota, man.
Like I said, it's very much like looking at a mirror, but Michigan's just better at everything, and they're just faster and stronger. It's and it's at the big house.
Yeah.
A lot of things stacked against Minnesota in this one. I think it'll be tough early. I think it'll be tough sledding, maybe for a quarter, maybe for a half. And we'll be texting about it, be like, oh God, what are we doing? What's this? What's that? But then I think eventually the dam's going to break in the third quarter.
Yep. As Vaughn says, run the damn ball, run the clock out, get this game over with. I agree, except I also want to see I want to see some guys in there. I want to see some growth. I want to see development because we're not just playing for this season. This is also next season too. We got to get some guys some run for next year that are taking over for starting spots. And there's just no there's no Bowling Green. Well, Bowling Green was a bad example. That was a nightmare game.
Don't say that. Don't say Bowling Green. I hope Jordan Marshall's healthy for this one.
Yeah,
he's been banged up the last couple of weeks. I'd really like to get him back in the rotation of everything because you and I mean, to say we're bullish on his potential is understating it.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Anything else from you before we call it, my friend?
No, I'm good. Got it all wrapped up, ready to get this one, put the women and children to bed, and go looking for dinner.
Absolutely, man. This podcast will go up late tonight on Thursday. I'm out in Mountain Time, so should be ready for your morning commute on Friday. And I will be going live immediately following the game on Bleacher Report with Michael Smeltzer. We will be back next Tuesday for Out of the Blue to hopefully talk about just a delightful and enjoyable win. Stress-free would be nice. Really hoping for that. So,
I mean, you and I were texting during the game. I don't know how we survived the Rose Bowl because that USC game about killed us.
Yeah.
We're getting feeble in our old age.
Yeah. I'm not far away from a gas station, so I can get cigarettes on call as needed. So let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Let's hope.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We will see you next time. Go Blue.